Hello, everyone, and welcome to our video about achieving Zen in VS Code. And what that actually means is just kind of removing some of the extra stuff around our code so we can focus solely on our code when we're coding with VS Code. My name is Craig Holliday.
I'm Keith Holliday.
And let's get to the video. So first, when we start looking at VS Code, we need to learn a little bit more about the user interface. The VS Code is separated out into a few different parts. That would be from the very left here is the activity bar. And then the sidebar is this right here. And then we have our editor groups. So on the right here, anything that is in this top right section, different split panels, anything in here, as well as our mini map right here, that's all in the editor or the editor groups. We have the panel right here. So this has your terminal, problems, output, debug console. Everything in this little window right here is the panel. And then one that we don't see a lot here because it's all the way at the bottom. It's even at the bottom of my screen. This is our status bar. Plenty of information. All this is the status bar. And so VS Code gives us the ability to hide all of these different panels one by one, or we can do something called Zen Mode, which hides a bunch of these. And this is what we're going to be talking about today, Zen Mode. So to enable Zen Mode, you just do, you can open your command palette with Command-Shift-P. That's going to bring you up your command palette, and then add this little caret to start running commands. We go over all these keyboard shortcuts in our last video, so go check out that. There's a link in the description below. So we want to toggle Zen Mode. And all we gotta do is do toggle, and it usually comes up right there, toggle Zen Mode. So if we go into toggling Zen Mode, what this does is it full screens VS Code, centers the layout, and then hides everything except your editor. It doesn't hide anything else inside the editor, just the editor, everything except the editor. So you still have your mini map here. You still have this little file tab at the top here, as well as being able to split anything in the editor. You still have your editor right here. It's just full screen and centered. Now, this gets us pretty close to complete Zen. We're going to go over hiding all of these, but the Zen Mode is very important because it hides a lot of these things for us. And what we're going to talk about is kind of upping the Zen ability of Zen Mode. And so first, you got to make the Zen Zen. So the Zen Mode gets us about 90% of the way there. We just want to take it the last 10%. And so before we go any further, let's cover two configuration options that Zen Mode gives us. And we're going to be playing around in the settings a lot. So let's start looking at our settings. You can go to your command palette again. And if you do settings, you can open settings in a UI, or you can open it in JSON. These look like these two things right here. So you can do it in UI interface, or you can change your settings just with JSON. And then right here, Zen Mode gives us this full screen and this centered layout option. And if we set those to false, it gets us to this just hiding everything without going full screen. So if you still want to keep something to the right, if you have a big screen, or even if you're just working on something and you want to keep other windows open and you just don't want to go full screen on code, you can just turn off full screen and centered layout, and then you get this right here. All right, now let's talk about each one of the parts of the UI that Zen Mode hides. So we just talked about every single part of the UI. Let's talk about how to hide individually every single part of this UI, because VS Code gives us that ability. So let's first start on the very left here with the activity bar. The activity bar can be hidden by doing toggle activity bar visibility as a command. This does not have a shortcut. So any of these you can set a shortcut for, but a lot of these are just commands that you can run by pulling up your command palette and just doing something like toggle activity bar visibility. A lot of these are going to just be the thing and then visibility. It keeps it very simple like that. And so if we do that, it's going to do just toggling that on and off. Very simple there. The same for the sidebar. But this one comes with a shortcut. So if you do Command B, you can hide the sidebar by itself. It does have a shortcut, so it's a little easier. You're probably going to be using that a little bit more. That's why there's a shortcut for it. Next, let's look at these bottom two parts. So the panel right here, let's go ahead and hide our sidebar. The panel and the status bar. So once again, toggle panel. And that one comes with a shortcut. Command J for that shortcut, or you can just run the command toggle panel. But I do, once again, it's probably going to be something you're going to be using. That's why it has a shortcut. Status bar, same thing. You just type in status bar visibility. And you see that I have a shortcut personally for that one. We can go over, I have shortcuts for all of these things. We cover that a little bit more in our shortcut video. But I have a custom shortcut to hide the status bar. But you can always do it with that command.
Question. And when you toggle your panel, does that turn off your processes that you're running? Say I'm running a node server. Yeah, so no, it will not. So everything still works with the panel, even though it's hidden. So if you're running a node server, if you have multiple terminals open, everything is going to continue to run. It just hides that panel for you. Now let's talk about that last 10% that we're talking about for Zen Mode. So we know how to hide most of the UI now. Zen Mode hides a lot of that, only showing us the editor. But there's a few little things in the editor that we're still going to want to hide. So let's go ahead and get into Zen Mode. And you just do toggle Zen Mode. The shortcut for that is Command KZ, but we did override that with the better Zen Mode that we're coming towards. So I have that off, but you can do Command K and then wait and then press Z. Let's look at the things that are still in Zen Mode that kind of takes us a little bit out of here. So we went that last 10%. And the two things that we see here are the minimap and indent guides. So the minimap is right here on the right. It provides a good UI for a kind of like a scaled out version, a zoomed out version of our code. You can drag around in it. It's pretty nice. But I'm trying to get in Zen here. We don't want that. So you can just do toggle minimap. And that goes away. You can set in a shortcut. You saw that I have a shortcut set for it as well. But if you just want to run the command toggle minimap, you can just do that. And now we have our indent guides here. Now this is a weird one. So these indent guides are not something that you can, the indent guides are anything showing an indent in your code. You can just see them here. They can get as long or as small as there are indents in your code. So if we pull this out, these right here, all these vertical lines here, those are indent guides. Helpful with your code, but if we want this really just to be Zen, and we just want to look at code, let's try to disable those. And all of these things are optional. That's why we're showing you how to hide things individually. If you don't want to hide indent guides, don't do this last part. So how do we hide indent guides? Now there's a few settings that we have to set to hide indent guides. And that is, you can see, don't get worried about this setting cycle just yet. But if you see, here are the options. It's actually just render indent guides. And then I have a few other options to make it look good. But if we add this value to our settings and then save, you can see that we no longer have indent guides anywhere in here in our file. And that's just this editor render indent guides, and you just set that to false. The problem with that is it's not just in Zen Mode. This is, if we go out of Zen Mode here, you see that we're back in regular mode, but our indent guides are still not there. That's not really what we want. So that leads us to this setting cycle. So setting cycle is a extension. If we go to our extensions tab here and I do installed settings cycler, this gives you the ability to cycle between two objects that'll change your settings, and you can just set a keyboard shortcut to switch between those. Great extension. So you just go to your extensions and then install this, and then there's just a syntax for
setting up which values you want to switch between in settings cycle. So in your settings, you have to give this what is cycling an ID, and we'll see where we use that ID here in a second, and then the array of values that it's going to switch between. And so we've added line numbers, folding, indent guides, and the mini map, just so when we switch to, we should be switching into Zen mode, and we'll set those to false. And then when we switch out, we should set everything to true. The way that we cycle between these settings is in our keyboard, or our key bindings. So if we go to keyboard shortcuts also has a JSON and a UI as well if you want to use those separately. I've got plenty of keyboard shortcuts in here. But if we go down to, what do we need now? So we're going to be using this ID. So you can actually, here it is. So I've added this keyboard shortcut. Control Shift Alt Command 5, which is something that we don't need to get into how I do all of those. But then you just do settings cycle and then the ID of what you defined in your settings.json. And then you can still define a when. This is a whole keyboard bindings thing, but you can say when there's a text input focus in the editor, whatever panel is currently focused, that is the only time that you run a key binding. We're just going to say when the editor is focused. Okay, so now if we run this, if we go back to some code and we do our shortcut, which is it's Shift Control Option Command and then the number 5. I have it in a little quicker way. We can just switch between those settings. And so that hides line numbers, the indent guides, and then folding is just, there's a little space here on the left. So it just blows that away as well. And then hides our mini map. So all of that is settings cycle. So that is how we can cycle between these indent guides and folding, a little few extra things that we want to add to Zen mode. And now, how do we run the Zen mode command to hide everything as well as this command? Well, now we go to another extension. And this is, I believe it's called MultiCommand. MultiCommand is very close to settings cycle. Is once you run a command, you can run multiple things in a sequence instead of just running a single command. And once again, there's a special syntax in your settings. You define multicommand.commands that are available. Command, which is the is going to be the ID of the command, and then the sequence of commands that you're going to run. So left panel is another one that I have, but this is our better Zen mode. In our sequence, we say workbench action toggle Zen mode, which is the same exact thing as running toggle Zen mode right here. So any action that you can run in your command palette is just workbench action and then whatever ID it has. And you can look at the documentation for what IDs go to what actions. So very cool thing you can do there. And then the same way that we want to call settings cycle by the ID, we can just do settings cycle Zen mode extras. And that'll toggle between those. It's just going to run that command again. So now we have multi-command better Zen mode. Now, we're going to run this sequence when we run this ID of the command. So let's go back to our key bindings. And we have the problem with having a bunch of different keyboard shortcuts is they get busy in here. But you see our command key is a key to run this command is Command KZ. And then the command we're running is our extension, multi-command execute. And then the arguments that we're passing into this command is the ID of the command, multi-command better Zen mode. A lot of stuff there. You can just copy these, add it in there. You don't need to change anything. Just need to add all these settings to your setting JSON, the key bindings to keybind JSON. There you go. And all of this setup gets us to running Command KZ, gets us into our better Zen mode. Look at this. There's nothing on the left. There's no mini map. There's no other panels. We get to just focus exclusively on our code.
It's magical.
And that's it. That's our better Zen mode. This is lots of extra stuff just to get to like a really nice Zen mode when you're actually doing VS Code. And once again, you can take any little piece of this that you want. You can still, when you're in Zen mode, you can still toggle things. So I can still, if I'm in Zen mode for my code, I can still bring up the panel and refresh my node server or run another command just to run my code. So all of this is configurable to whatever you want to do with your VS Code. That's the beauty of VS Code, is it gives you a lot that you can do with just built-in features.
Plus the extensions that we went over, you can use it to automate a lot of other processes besides just in mode. So
yes, definitely. So MultiCommand is a great one to take a look at. They even give you like down 3 lines and swapping characters. And then for the settings cycle, you can change any settings. That's any settings in your settings .json. It can switch any of those and toggle between them. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching. If you would like to take a look at kind of just a write-up of all of this, we have it on our blog. There's a link in the description below. If you have any questions, go ahead and write them in the comments, and go check out the other key bindings and keyboard shortcuts tips video for VS Code. That's a great one to help you out with some other stuff to keep you productive in VS Code. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next video.